we've got some amazing guests in the green room, standing by, waiting to talk to all of you.
In today's world, there's more and more opportunity to have a hybrid in between both of those.
Your job isn't to get into the industry to get rich. Your job is to get into the industry to support and provide the best service you can.
Listen, discover, explore. I mean, it's exactly what I tell the brands that we open retail stores for, right?
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Growth and Scaling Sessions. I am so excited to be here today to talk about one of the key things I think most businesses fail to do effectively, and that is retire products. It is so hard for us when we have built our business based off of certain key things that we do and deliver to our clients to then stop delivering certain things. And why would we do that? Now, because likely they're not making us money anymore. So today we are going to have an amazing episode. I have invited a guest who is especially familiar with retiring products because in her industry, it happens all the time. And so I cannot wait to bring her in. Before we do, though, I just want to make sure everyone knows that today's episode is sponsored by the Captain's Council. The Captain's Council is here to support owners and operators of businesses who are in growth and scaling mode. That's right. It's a peer community for people just like you growing and scaling. Tracy, I'm so excited to introduce you today. And as we do so, tell us, as I bring in here, there we go. Tracy, tell us who you are and what do you do and why you're so familiar with retiring products. It's kind of a weird thing.
Hi, Todd. Yeah, my name's Tracy. I have a brand. It's a digital brand called Aura. It was formerly Aurelian Icarus, which is a jewelry and accessories brand based here in New York, a phygital brand. And I'm very happy to announce that Aura has gone 100% digital. So we've made some major big changes, full rebranding, and we're launching, hopefully, fingers crossed, this month.
Woo! I love it. That's an exciting time. Now, you mentioned transitioning between brands and kind of evolving into this new brand. That in and of itself is a huge example of today's topic, which is to retire products. Chances are you're making this transition for a reason. Would you mind sharing, like, you're in the fashion industry. How do you fit in there, and how have you evolved as the industry's evolved into what you're launching this month?
Well, it's a mixture of different reasons why I wanted to move into the digital space. I think the number one reason was for sustainability. It's a lot lighter on the planet when you're working with digital, right? There's much less waste involved. Digital is not 100% perfect. We all know that, but this is a path I want to align myself with in my values. And secondly, there's a lot of different reasons. One of it could be, for example, if you take the idea of like how all physical products degrade over time, digital, obviously you don't have to worry about that. And you could sell many copies, an infinite amount of copies in digital, whereas products in physical, you have inventory to worry about. And the more inventory you have building up is not good. And we don't have to worry about inventory when we're dealing with tech. And then we don't have to worry about shipping either, or logistical problems as well. When when COVID happened, was amazing. Was really, for me, business wise, it was amazing. I know there was a lot of people harping, but for me, it was great. For just a lot of people were home bored, they wanted to go shopping. But however, I had some problems, which was like the first one was I had these boxes, jewelry boxes that I ship all my pieces with. I ran out, and where I get them made is in the Ukraine. And before the war came out, I said to my supplier, I said, are you going to be able to deliver for me? There's a war going to happen. Is everything going to be fine with me? And he said, yes, don't worry about it. It's all fake news. It's not going to happen. And lo and behold, what happened? So I had to go find a replacement. And in the meantime, so I went to China and I was sourcing there. And then what happened in China? We've got these crazy COVID lockdowns. People couldn't get to the
Right.
factories to produce these boxes.
Right.
So that's a great example where moving into the digital space makes so much more sense for me. There's just less hassle of that kind of stuff behind, leaving that kind of stuff
100%.
behind.
100%. No, I totally hear you. And that's fascinating to hear about because, you know, there's a lot of reasons to retire a product. And one of them being, you know, in both cases, it sounds like it wasn't due to lack of market, you know, demand. I mean, people still wanted the products, but because of your supply chain, because of the way that you had impacted through things you couldn't control, you had to modify, you had to make adjustments, you had to make changes.
Mhm.
Do you still sell those things now that you might have better supply chain?
Yes, I do. But I made the big change literally just last month. So we're transitioning now. And as much as I'm trying to kill the physical side of it, I'm still getting great temptations to go back there. I mean, I got these people that were doing these amazing photo shoots from these
Yeah.
magazines, and they're still taking photos of my stuff and sending it to me. And then buyers are asking me, can you still send me this? Where can I buy can you still sell it? And I don't want to. I need to move on. And a great thing of it is because since I've been an entrepreneur for so long, I
Yeah.
understand and I know that you have to evolve over time and you got to be like Madonna. You have to reinvent yourself to stay relevant. And that's
Right.
what I've done over the years. Excuse me. I'm looking for ways to stay ahead of the curve to make
Yeah.
sure my customers are going to be interested in what I'm selling and that it's going to resonate with them.
100%. 100%.
Mhm.
And that's our first point that I want to bring up today. And, you know, trying to retire a product, you've got to evaluate different things about your product lineup within your company. And you just addressed it in like 5 different ways, but that is market demand. You know, whether there is market demand or isn't, you've got to consider other things also. You know, is there not only are people wanting the product, but is there a financial implication of me holding on to this thing versus retiring it? To your point, if you want to still sell physical products and remain in that physical domain, you got to get inventory. You got to make sure all your suppliers are intact. You got to make sure all these things are still in line for you to be able to sell and ship your product effectively. If you don't have that available, that's a huge financial implication. And when looking forward at your digital product, how are you facilitating? How are you delivering? What does that look like in this new model that you're moving into? Or can you talk about it?
How am I marketing it?
Now, how are you delivering it? Like what does the delivery look like on a digital product in the fashion world? Like what does that look like?
Well, it depends on what other people are doing as well, because there's lots of different platforms for digital fashion. They can go into any website like DressX and hit a button, and then they can have the AR wearable to wear. Like, for example, what I'm wearing right now is one of my digital wearables.
I love it.
So if you can see, it just disappears.
That's so
When I
cool.
wear it. So people like this because they can wear them on their social medias. They can show them off that this is something different. And you can see how this move, this is more than it's how Gen X is today. When I speak with my son, he says, "Mom, everybody's wearing their AR, their augmented reality filters in gaming. It's just or with their friends. It's just how kids are these days." So even though I'm a Gen Zer,
Right.
I understand that I've got to be like snooping around to see what kids are interested in,
Right.
and I got to make sure that I can fill that. This is my demographic. I got to be able to fill that need. And one thing to think about when you're deciding what product to retire is, I think this is really important. Entrepreneurs can get so in love with one product. They
Yeah.
put all their energy in it, and they're so laser focused on it. They're not seeing what their customers want. And
Right.
so I think it's really important to take your ego and emotion out of these certain products that you may be in love with, but you're not listening to your customers. Even the customers want something that you may not like so much. For
Totally.
example, like there's some products that I have that are super basic that sells. However, there's stuff that the magazines love that's like very ostentatious, and a
Right.
lot of people in the fashion industry love, and I love, but it's not selling as much as the simple basic stuff. So I've got to realize a lot of my marketing has to be
Right.
towards something that I'm not totally in love with. So it's important to have a really healthy balance for your brand vision, that's going to cater, that these products all have to be catered to your vision, and everything has to be on brand. So you're going to have to, put your, if there's something that is not selling, you've got to be brave enough to kill it, and move
Totally.
on and go with what the customers want. And maybe you can tweak it in a different way, do some different styles that could be more something that's more your style, and come up with something that's like a nice compromise that's gonna
Totally.
that can be marketable.
Totally. I think there's no better industry than the fashion industry to teach all of us in business about how to retire products effectively, because they're
Mhm.
literally looking into tomorrow to figure out what we need today. And oftentimes, oftentimes it works. Like I'm shocked sometimes at how they can bring back a style that was popular in the late 80s or even in the 70s, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden, hey, bell bottoms are in again. Why? Because the
Mhm.
fashion people told us that's what was going to be in this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's an interesting phenomenon that happens in fashion where not only are you able to kind of push the envelope a little bit and try and evolve your clients, but I think there's no better industry where people are so quick to listen and monitor. And I think that's why there's so many shows, why there's so many places to display your works. You want to see what people look like when they see your new product. They want to see how they respond to what you're introducing. And if it's not a good response, you still got time to change a little bit, right? Maybe modify a little bit.
Exactly. And that's what's great about Web3 is that brands can experiment with different styles, and they can, because you don't have to worry about the manpower that goes into making a sample. Making
Right.
a sample, for example, shirts, you're going to have to source out your fabric. You're going to have to go through grading to make sure the sizing is correct, and your manufacturing. With digital fashion, you're just dealing with rendering, which is the
Right.
design and the drawings of it. So you can ask your customers, you can design the items. You can ask your customers, do you like this? Do you like that? You can make these different styles at a fraction of the cost than
Right.
what you would pay for physical products. So
Right. Right.
it's a really good instant response you can get from your customers as to what they want, what they that appeals to them and that they can resonate with.
And Tracy, I'm curious, from your perspective, you are a forward thinker. You are, different than most Gen Xers in thinking even about this type of product and introducing this to the market. I love it.
Mhm.
Um, what have you seen in your experience, like some really bad cases where people drop a product they really shouldn't have and it ends up killing their brand? I mean, this is something that you and I have witnessed throughout our lives, and it may be hard to come up with something off the top of your head. I didn't really prepare you for that question, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
tell us an
There's
example of
loads of
something
it.
you see. Yeah,
There's loads of it going on right now in Web3. For example, you have a lot of big brands that are diving into this tech space just
yeah,
for the sake of diving in, and they're creating these wearables that looks nothing like their brand. A lot of these avatars that we're seeing are very cutesy and kid-like, and
yeah,
the rendering was a bit, I don't know. If your brand is a sophisticated brand that has like really nice sensual touches to it,
yeah.
and you're putting it on a cartoonish avatar, you're really going to confuse your customers as to what your identity is. And they're going to respond to it by just simply not buying it. So you got to make sure that you're authentic.
Right.
Authenticity is so important when you're evolving in this space. You got to make sure that even though you're getting into into Web3, you you have to make sure that it is on brand. It's got to, like, visually, it's got to be in there. And you're not going to, and you need to translate to your buyers that you're not in this space purely to make money, because you're going to just like put them off that way.
Right. You're literally leading into these 5 things just perfectly, because brand reputation, customer impact, and brand reputation are right in there when it comes to determining whether your new product or service is going to fit, as you're trying to evolve your brand and evolve your services. There's a lot of things to think about. The customer, what are they going to think about it? How is the brand going to be affected? I think you're right on when it comes to this digital fashion world that I'm super unfamiliar with. I can imagine a brand that is, very sleek and very nice going into a cartoonish anime display isn't going to work real well for their existing client base.
Mm-hmm.
We see this with, we saw what happened with Bud Light this year, right? I mean, there's crazy stuff happening when they thought they knew what their customer wanted, and apparently it wasn't.
Apparently didn't use a focus group. That would have been helpful.
That would have been a little helpful. So how do you do things like that? Because outside of the fashion world, focus groups aren't really a popular thing to do. What do you see? Have you seen a brand do this effectively outside of fashion, where they are able to kind of adapt and maybe release product that fits their client and their brand really, really well?
Well, I think we're seeing it. We're starting to see it already. So, for example, there's this platform called Spatial, which is a metaverse where you can see, they have a lot of events, and then you can go around. It's like a immersive gallery, right?
Cool.
So you can go in, you sign up, and you have an avatar. And when the avatars first came up, they were legless. I don't even know if they had arms and legs. So now,
Among Us, huh?
So you would go in there and feel very strange. Now that is changing. So they've changed their avatars. So it's slowly starting to get more sophisticated. So as we evolve and technology gets better, we're going to see tech that is reflective of how brands want them to be communicated.
Right. Mm-hmm. And are you seeing some of these brands that are going digital, trying too hard to hold on to parts of their product that they probably should just let go? And what are some signs of that? I mean, you're an interesting case, because you're talking about being a physical product provider and designing, developing, and building, and this whole world around physical products. How do you know when to let go of those physical products? Because, like, as you mentioned, now that things are kind of a little more normalized, people want those physical products again. How are you making the decision to say, you know what, I got to focus where my new focus is, and not continue to produce what was working 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Well, each product really for businesses, each product, you need to justify it by having a clear path to profitability. So take a look at your costing and make sure your margins, how big are they? I went into a retail wine shop, really nice wine shop here in New York City several months ago, and I asked them what their margins were, and they said it was 10%. 10%? How can you be in business with a 10% margin? So I was just trying to keep my composure when they told me that. I was really shocked. So you kind of make sure your margins are going to be able to justify while you're still trying to push this product, and make sure how much marketing are you putting towards it? Are you putting, if it's a dying product and you're pushing all your marketing budget in it, is that obviously it's not working out. If the sales are not there and you're pushing so much, investing all this money in it, it's not working out. So, and then also make sure that, do your research, look at trends. When I look at trends, it's not just fashion trends I look at business trends. So I subscribe to the Financial Times. I have CNBC on all the time. I'm looking at it all the time. I do day trading on the side, but I'm looking at CNBC. They have a great program called Tech Check. I'm always checking to see what's going on. What are the movements like? What's shifting? What are consumers? What's happening economically? That's a huge trend. Hint of what's happening in the markets.
Right.
And it's telling us how consumers are responding to the markets. So that these are all really important. I mean, you really got to do your research, looking at media that is, business media is super important, and then look at media that is related to your industry. I subscribe to Vogue Business. I read those articles in there that are related to my niche, and
Right.
I make sure
Right.
that I'm on the right track.
I love it. I love it. No, there's so much that you just said there. There was a lot of good nuggets in there, actually. Focus on your niche is one thing. Second
Mhm.
thing, I love what you talked about when you're talking about, your margins. There are industries that get away with a 10% margin and somehow they stay in business and somehow they continue to grow. And that's great for you. But is there a tweak? Is there a modifier you could put in play to build a 50%, even 100% markup sometimes in your products so that your margins are more like 50%? I mean, are there spaces where you can say, for example, do what Tracy's done and jump into
Mhm.
this world of digital where you may have been 100% completely into hard physical products prior to the last evolution of our economy.
Mhm.
And now you can look at it and say, holy crap, people actually want to dress themselves up with virtual earrings and virtual cosmetics and virtual what is a filter? A filter is nothing more
Mhm.
than what Tracy's talking about. Could you
Mhm.
incorporate something like that? Maybe not a filter per se, but a digital product that works for your industry that is kind of cutting edge. And does that work for you? Can you sell it?
Mhm.
How do you monetize it?
Mhm. Mhm.
Tracy, that's a huge step that you made, honestly. How did you find the production and that evolution for yourself? Um, was it a hard move? Has it been a hard move? And is it paying off?
Well, I got into this space about 2 years ago, about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was asked to do a Clubhouse talk by a Parisian digital brand. That digital means physical plus digital. So they sell physical and digital twins
Okay.
of the brand, or digital offshoots of digital products. To do a
Right.
Clubhouse talk with them and a digital fashion platform based in Austria. I'd heard about
Cool.
it, and then I'd heard about it earlier before then, but I just got distracted with everyday business and forgot about it. So
Yeah.
after that talk, I realized this was something seismic that was happening in the industry. I got to do something about it. So I went down to Decentral Miami, and if the listeners don't know what Decentral Miami is, well, Miami is like the hub spot in the U.S. for crypto and NFTs. Went down
Right.
there. COVID was still raging. Nobody had a
Right.
mask on. Nobody had a mask on, and I didn't know what I was doing. I felt super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I realized I gotta put my big girl pants on, and I just gotta get in and start talking with people. And I was very honest. Went up to the people there. I said, "Look, I don't really know anything about Web3, but
Right.
I'm interested. And would you like to collaborate with me?" And to
Yeah.
my surprise, they said yes. So that's how it happened. I met up with these other renderers, which are basically Web3 designers, and we started making digital assets together, which are these.
Yeah.
And I just want to touch base on what you said before about margins. I
Yeah.
think it's super important for people for entrepreneurs to realize, don't don't be so hard on yourself. It's important to get greedy with your margins. I am a greedy person with my margins, but
Good.
you have to justify those margins
Yeah.
by how your product looks. Customers want to know, okay, if I'm paying this much money for something, it's got to be exclusive, it's got to be luxury. Justify that price. If you can do that, go for it. We don't, just
Yep.
because we're in fashion doesn't mean the stuff we're making has to be, from a dollar shop. We can
Right.
really get those margins in and make profits. Anyways, I just want to touch base on that. That
I
somebody
totally
told,
appreciate that. Yep.
yeah, it doesn't always have to be a race to the bottom for
Agreed.
having the lowest margins for prices. And then,
Agreed.
okay, so getting back to like how I worked with other people. So yeah, so I started networking also on LinkedIn. So I started connecting with loads of people in Web3, loads of digital designers, and things just started moving on and on. from then I got really great connections, and it's turned my world upside down in a really good way, because it's my life is different now. It's
Right.
digital, and it's exciting. And at my age, I never thought I'd be hanging out with like 20 30 year olds like in tech, but yes, I am.
Right. Yeah, for a fashion woman, a Gen X fashion woman to all of a sudden
Yeah,
be in the Gen Z digital world, that's a whole different world.
yeah.
And congratulations on the transition, by the way. It's super cool. I
Oh,
cannot
thank
wait
you.
to see what you do with your brand. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so as you have started this evolution, though, and I'm in the same boat. Mine was unfortunately a fairly different experience during COVID. My brand got completely, or my company got completely annihilated because it was all in person
Oh,
programming, in person events,
oh no.
and the transition wasn't as easy because going digital in what I did was really awkward and really hard, and ultimately it's coming back now, but I've chosen not to get back into it. Um, how does that, have you seen that happen in your world, in your space? Because some people are so excited to kind of get back to the way things were. What kind of things have changed in the fashion industry that you're saying, I don't know that that's ever going to come back? And I'm glad I'm kind of developing where I am right now versus things that have made a comeback and are kind of back to normal.
I think that things are definitely different now since COVID. I mean, you have people have to go back into the office. Some
Yeah.
people don't want to actually stay home. But I think with fashion, I mean, we've seen, everybody, the metaverse was really super popular during COVID, because people would go into these events online and meet lots of people from like all over just different parts of the world. But
Right.
now there's events, people want to go in person to events. And I'm also a part of an event called Digital Fashion Week. And
Right.
Digital Fashion Week blends the best of both worlds. So it blends the digital world with the real world. And so with these, and it coincides with fashion weeks in New York, London, and Paris.
Right.
So people can go to the fashion physical events here in New York, and they can see the runway shows in person. And then they can also experience digital fashion by trying on the augmented reality fashion, either with like, the headsets. They
Right.
can experience everything, how it looks on. They can see and the NFTs like rotating around. It's
Right.
super exciting. It's very immersive, and it's a new space that's evolving, and it's not going away. This is something new that is going to grow and grow and evolve, get more
Right.
sophisticated. And it started in New York, and now it's like now it has expanded to London and Paris. So this September, I'm going to be speaking at Digital Fashion Week in New York and in
So cool.
London at Epic Games, and in Paris at Monet Paris headquarters. So it's
Love
exciting.
it.
It's something that I would like to invite everybody to be a part of.
It's so cool. And honestly, I'm assuming you're posting about this on your LinkedIn, or where can people learn
Mhm.
more about where you're going to be participating in these things?
Yeah, so you can see them in my LinkedIn posts. You can see them on digitalfashionweek.newyorkcity.nyc,
Cool.
and you can learn more about all the other designers and the brands that come down there. A lot of brands come down, big brands come down there to see what is the future of fashion and see
Cool.
what is going on in the tech space. It's a really exciting space to be
It
in.
it's
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah, I mean, it's super cool. I mean, look at me right now. I'm very much manipulating my everything through my green screen, and everything
Mhm.
I'm doing is very modern. I mean, I would have never had a green screen prior to COVID probably, and here I am every day. I'm operating in a very virtual environment, which is kind of fun. So, um, yeah, go ahead, Tracy.
Todd, I just would like to say though, I mean, it is very exciting in this space, but if my sales, my profits are not there, I'm going to kill them. I will kill these products.
Of course.
As much as I'm in love with them, I am, I'm gonna like, I'll chop it off and kill whatever is not working, and then I will move on to something else. That's, I think, one
Totally.
of the great things about being an entrepreneur is we
Yeah.
love risk. We're
Yes.
like risky people,
I don't know why we
and
do, but we do.
why do we do that? And we will jump around and jump around in other spaces until we find that sweet spot and continue to build businesses.
Tracy,
And
I
it's a
love it.
great thing.
I love it. And for those of you watching and participating today, I would love to see in the comments and the chat. A little late for this ask, but if you're rewatching this, please don't hesitate to drop in here. What have you had to drop in the past 5 years in your product lineup that you were so proud that you did? And what have you dropped that you're considering bringing back on now that things have kind of normalized? I think there's a lot of people doing both things right now, and I don't think any of you could be wrong in what you're doing. But the things that I want to kind of reemphasize as we close this are, the things to consider. Is there a market demand for the product? Is it changed? Has the market trends modified how people want or demand your products and services? That's something to consider. Second thing, always be focusing on the financial implications. Are your margins cut in half? Tracy, that was a big thing for me when COVID hit and I started doing virtual events. My margins went way down. I mean, I was doing just as much preparation, just as much time in the presentation, and they expected that because I wasn't traveling and doing any of that stuff, that my prices would go down significantly. And it was kind of a kick in the crotch. I mean, that was not very cool. I was like, I don't want to do this if I'm going to make literally a third of
Yeah.
the revenue for the same amount of preparation,
Yeah.
same amount of delivery.
Yeah.
And so then it comes down to brand reputation. Are you really able to keep your brand the same level, the same place that you want it to be when you're delivering products that aren't as in demand, or there are reasons why you can't financially fulfill it? And then last of all is your employee implications. Is your team on board? In your case, you've got a design team, you've got other people helping you, engineer these virtual products and services. I think it's so cool what you're doing, by the way. This is super. I'm fascinated. I'm actually super intrigued. I didn't fully understand the scope of what you were doing beforehand. Very cool stuff. But for all of you listening, and Tracy, I'm going to ask you to kind of close us up here. As you consider retiring products, are you thinking about these 5 things? Are you considering the fact that maybe market changes and shifts have made your product obsolete? Are you thinking that is there a reason enough to re-engineer yourself or re-engineer what you're doing to keep that brand recognition and leverage that to a new product or service that could totally revolutionize your business? These are things you got to be thinking about. And Tracy, I'm going to turn it over to you. What do you suggest people do and look at as they are wondering these things? Are you on a good growth journey right now? And if not, why? How do you fix your product offering?
It should be a blend of what is working and what is not working for your product. So as I said before, you really got to take your emotion and ego out of your business and make solid decisions with your brain and not your heart. And also consider, who am I working with? Are these people holding me back from making the changes that it should be aligned? Your partners and the people working for you should be aligning to your vision. So your product and the people you work with all has to contribute to your vision to make it work. So balance that with your margins, your marketing, your trends, and how customers resonate with your brands. And that should really give you a good idea of what's working and what isn't working. And lastly, you've really got to be strong. And that, I think that's the number one thing. Being an entrepreneur is freaking hard, really hard. And it's lonely. It's lonely because there's not enough people that can understand your situation. We're all doing really brave things that are different from everybody. We're in control of our finances. So keep that in mind, be brave, and have a support group, and always bounce things off of people to get people's opinions, and especially with your consumers, bounce things off. continually evolving and reinventing yourself and be
I love
positive.
it. I love it.
Thank
Tracy,
you.
that is such good advice. And honestly, it feeds right into our sponsor, which is the Captain's Council, which truly is like, if you are alone, because we all feel alone as operators of businesses, you can't always complain to your employees about the stuff that really matters to your business. Otherwise, they get nervous and they leave and they do crazy things. There is a place. The Captain's Council is a peer community of other founders and operators who are striving to do the same thing you are, grow and scale their business. And whether you're talking about new products or retiring products, or whether you're talking about new product types and categories, these are all things that you should be thinking about. How can you grow and expand? How can you grow and expand through acquisition? How can you grow and expand through new product development? All those things are really relevant. Who else to talk to than another founder, another operator, someone who's dealing with the same stress as you are and evolving into a digital community? Tracy, you are the best. Thank you so much for your time today. And if you haven't checked out captainscouncil.com, check it out. It is a community for people like you and like Tracy and I, who are just trying to do our best. And sometimes we need other people's opinions to help us get the right
Absolutely.
decisions made. Thank you, Tracy, so much for being
Thank
here.
you, Todd. Appreciate
We'll
it.
see
Thanks
all
for
of
the
you later.
opportunity.
Thanks.
Cheers.